All right, let's dive right into a huge question in global politics. And we're going to look at it through the eyes of one of the most powerful and maybe one of the most challenging theories out there. I mean, really think about that for a second. We talk about a community of nations, right? But is a tiny island nation, in any real sense, the equal of a global superpower? This whole idea of political equality is right at the heart of how the world works, or maybe how it doesn't. And there's one theory in particular that has a very strong and, maybe pretty uncomfortable answer to that question. It's called realism, and it gives us a stark, power-focused way of looking at everything. Okay, so to really get what realists are talking about, we have to start with what they see as the single most important fact about life on planet Earth: anarchy. Now, hold on. When a realist says anarchy, they're not picturing chaos in the streets and Mad Max. Nope. For them, it's a very specific technical thing. It means there's no world government, there's no global 911 you can call, no world police force to come and save the day. Ultimately, every single country is on its own. And this idea, it's got really deep roots. To understand it, we've got to travel back to the 17th century, to a thinker named Thomas Hobbes. He was living through the absolute chaos of the English Civil War, and it got him wondering, what are people really like when there's no government around to keep everyone in line? So Hobbes lays out this kind of chilling chain of logic. First, he says, look, people are basically equal, especially in our ability to hurt each other. Step 2, because we're equal and we want the same stuff, we start competing. And more importantly, we start getting really, really scared for our own survival. And that leads to step 3. Without a higher power to stop us, that fear and competition boils over into a constant state of war. And this brings us to Hobbes's terrifying conclusion, one of the most famous lines ever written in political philosophy. In this state of nature, life is just awful. There's no time for industry or art or culture, just a constant grinding fight to stay alive. So, if the world is this incredibly dangerous, anarchic place, how does a country survive? Well, for realists, the answer is simple, and it's ruthless. It's all about power. And this is the absolute bottom line. In a system where you can only help yourself, you just can't count on another country's goodwill. You can't hope that some international law or some moral principle is going to save you. The only thing you can truly rely on is your own strength, your military might, and your economic power. That's it. And believe me, this is not some new idea. The ancient Greek historian Thucydides wrote this down more than 2,000 years ago. It's this timeless, brutal expression of power politics. The strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must. We can even see this logic in modern game theory. Take the famous prisoner's dilemma. You've got two partners in crime, right? They're in separate rooms, and they can't talk. Now, look at the options. The best outcome for both of them is if they both stay silent. But think about it from your perspective. If you stay silent but your partner rats you out, you get 10 years. If you rat them out, you might go free. So no matter what your partner does, your best bet is always to betray them. It's the most rational choice. And realists say that's exactly the trap that nations are in. But wait a minute. Hang on. If it's all just about raw power and who's the strongest, then how on earth do you explain the modern international system? Because it's supposed to be built on an idea that's the total opposite of that. And that idea is called sovereign equality. It's a huge deal. It's a cornerstone of the United Nations and modern diplomacy. This is the official definition of political equality. Every single country is the master of its own territory, and in the eyes of the law, they are all peers. And right here, this is the central paradox. It's this massive contradiction. On the one hand, you have this beautiful ideal of formal political equality. Go to the UN General Assembly, and guess what? The vote of a tiny nation counts just as much as the vote of the United States. One country, one vote. But on the other hand, you have the cold, hard reality of material inequality. You just have to look at the UN Security Council, where 5 great powers have a veto. They can literally overrule the entire rest of the world. So, which one is real? Well, if you ask a realist, there's no paradox here at all. To them, it's simple. The idea of equality is just that, an idea, a nice story. The reality is something much, much harsher. So let's just tie this all together. From the realist point of view, the world is anarchic. That forces every country to focus on its own survival, which leads to this endless struggle for power. In a world like that, this concept of political equality is, well, it's a fragile condition. It's a courtesy. It's not a fundamental right. Because at the end of the day, when the chips are down, realists will tell you that raw power, not legal principles, is what's going to decide what happens next. And that leaves us with a really tough question, doesn't it? Is this realist worldview just cynical? Is it a pessimistic and depressing way to look at things? Or is it a necessary reality check? Is it a clear-eyed, essential tool for actually understanding why countries behave the way they do? It really makes you wonder if political equality is a real principle we can build on, or just a convenient story we tell ourselves, in a world that, deep down, is still run by power.